States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We have the pledge of allegiance. Is there any public input this evening?
Is there any public this evening?
All right. Resolution items: establish a capital reserve fund. Resolution authorizing a proposition to be presented to voters at the annual meeting.
The second one, discussion.
Second.
Now we'll have some discussion.
Okay, so first of all, let's get a general idea of what has to happen. First, we have to agree on an amount. We told you last time what Adam and I thought was $4.5 million. That leverages $30 million in capital projects because we get about 85% aid refund. So $4.5 million. If we take 5 years or 6 years or 7 years to get that $4.5 million, at that time we do a $30 million project with no cost to the taxpayers. That's the key. That's what we're trying to do, just like we did last capital project, is save enough money so that the taxpayer share is covered by this reserve. Now, the wording, and we can talk about the amount in a minute if you have questions on the amount or other ideas you want to track. The wording is intentionally general because 5 years from now, 6 years from now, whenever we actually go and do this work, we want to be able to include enough stuff that whatever we include, that's the only thing that could be in the capital project, right? So that's why it's so all-encompassing. But as I'm reading it, and as some of you started reading it, there are probably things we can get rid of. I just crossed off construction of new schools. Not that that's something that's absolutely not going to be in our future anytime, but this fund, $30 million, is not going to do that. So I think we can take it out. Do you agree with that, Adam? Totally fine.
The only issue I have is this says 10 years.
Well, 10 years is the maximum it can be, so we put 10. We have talked that we probably are going to have to go out to another project way earlier than 10. We're thinking probably in the 4 or 5 year range.
But we couldn't go past the 4.5 million either. So no matter what, it's $30 million.
So-
It's 10 years or
Yeah,
7 years.
4.5. We can do it in 4 or 5. Then we can go. You can go before the 10, but 10's the maximum.
So if we have $1 million put aside, we could put that toward, like we did this year, okay, last year. We can put it toward, we can take that $1 million, even though that's not, we didn't hit 4.5, and say if we put $1 million in 2 years away, and we're going out, we add it to the capital project line, or whatever we do, how we do it, so it doesn't cost the taxpayers money.
Right. Every $1 million, I just did it. Every $1 million is 6.6 million that we can leverage.
Okay.
Right. So.
Right, and the last line says, such portions from unallocated fund balance may be determined from time to time by the Board of Ed. So at any point in time, to say, to get a revenue, you can say, okay, we're going to put that aside for the capital reserve, and a resolution is done, and they can go in there.
And that can happen anytime during the year?
Anytime. I mean, most of the time, we were just talking today, most will be at the end of the school year, when the budget's done and our school year's done, and, some years our expenses are way under what we budgeted, or after we reconcile towards the end of the summer, or, remember we sold school one and we did hold it aside, but now if we had something like that where there's a one-shot revenue, instead of holding it aside and then saying we're going to use it, we could put it right in that reserve. Now each time that will take a resolution from the board. So with the new law, this will all be, that's the other thing that the taxpayers will need to know, the voters. It'll all be transparent. It will all be, every single time we put money in there, there'll be a board resolution that we'll vote on to say, okay, we just, we're not selling school one again, but let's say it was now, we just got $315,000 for school one. The next board meeting we put, if we agree, we put, 300,000 of it in this reserve, right? So as one-shot revenues come, whenever they come, we could, if we think it's necessary or think it's applicable, appropriate, we can put it right in this reserve.
What is, we have 2 projects we're paying back now. What's the, is there a max that you can borrow up to a certain amount?
Borrow? Yeah, we have a constitutional debt limit that's calculated. You can exceed it, but it requires a 60% majority vote to exceed it. Right now, we're pretty close. Small cities have a lesser rate than, say, suburban districts. So we can borrow up to 5% of our assessed value other districts can borrow either 9%.
So 5 years from now, will you be able to borrow 30 million without 60% approval?
Yes, we are having debt service drop off in 2021 and then again in 2025.
I'm sure this is all worded very accurately, but does anyone else besides me just have concern that it has the words fund balance, that the grade on Wash will see this, and there's always a thing, like for the union, why don't you use your fund balance?
We can't.
Where is that?
There's unallocated fund balance, you're saying at the end?
Is there another way to word that? Does it really matter? I don't know. I just think that they're trick words for some groups.
I think that's the standard.
Yeah, I think it does. I mean,
Okay.
that is what it
That's what it
is.
is.
Yeah, I said I'm sure it was accurate.
Yeah. I mean,
Just saying.
I get
And that will
questions
be
on
another
fund balance all the
couple
time.
years.
Yeah,
So
but,
rather than,
you know, the same people who said that we had to pay $9 million to get our computers, across the district, I mean, they're gonna say this about balance.
I guess to make it more simpler for the average Joe to read it, where it says establish a capital reserve fund. In parentheses, we put like savings account, so, because that's what it is, and it made people think, oh, they're saving money, type thing. I don't know.
If we're gonna talk about wording of the resolution, I'd rather call the bond.
Well, we will call it, let's get all
I
our
mean, just to make it simpler to people,
But
they may understand that they're saying, okay, they're trying to save money.
But
I don't know, I think it might look better, or easier for them.
I don't disagree with that, but it's probably a legal document that you can't
Yeah.
put into.
Right.
We're gonna talk like that, Tom, I mean, but not everybody comes to our meetings and stuff.
Right, and I know you
We'll
will.
put it in the budget newsletter, but, in regular terms, right?
Yeah.
Let's figure out before we call her, let's figure out what things we don't want. I already took out construction of new schools.
finding more land.
The acquisition of land, if we want to leave that in there, I would just suggest putting it at the end. I don't want that really to be the first
I
thing
would
people
leave
read.
it in case there's like a little easement or something, a little slip
Yeah, I
on
mean,
one.
You said move it to the end.
Let's move it to end so it's not the first thing people are reading.
So, for the purpose of financing
Construction of.
construction of additions to and reconstruction of various school district buildings, and I say take out construction and reconstruction of athletic fields, and leave the word site work and acquisitions of all original furnishings, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required for the purpose. So, are you saying put it in, like, after equipment, like, because the rest of
We
it.
could do an acquisition of original furnishings, equipment, machinery, apparatus,
What is apparatus?
and the acquisition of land there, right?
What means
Require-
apparatus?
No, we have to require for the building
Right,
of
we
such
gotta do
buildings.
that with the apparatus,
Yeah,
that
but-
are to be used. Okay, then
I
put-
repeat, what is apparatus? It's not equipment. Why have this word that doesn't mean anything in there?
These words came from our bond counsel, so we
Oh.
trust that she has reasons to
I
to
think-
say apparatus.
Wait a minute, I think apparatus, if I'm right, I'm not sure though, I think from capital project before, I think it's something to do with wheels, something, a moving vehicle. Machinery is one thing, like buying,
A
a
backhoe.
jack, you
That would
know,
be, well, I would call that equipment a backhoe.
right, but
What
it's
about
also considered,
scaffolding? Scaffolding seems to be.
but it's also considered machinery, but again,
Okay. Whatever.
and I think apparatus is something that's drivable. I'm thinking that's what it is. But I mean, I was wrong once before.
If we take out the construction and reconstruction of athletic fields and improvements,
Isn't that covered under site work anyway?
Yes,
well, that's why I asked, that's one of the questions we'll have to ask her. Because there may be, I mean, those fields are getting older, there may be some improvements we want to do to those. But I understand why we might not put
Those?
the words here.
Yeah.
Not before we fix all our buildings, come on.
Okay, good
It's
point.
not gonna be a priority in our $30 million.
Good point. I agree with that. All right, so then it's a matter of where could she put acquisition of land at the end and have the wording flow. Can I call her and ask her that?
Wait a minute, before you do that, can you read her, if we give you the whole statement as we want it, as we say it,
She must have it in front of her, right?
She may be
Right.
because if we, because I mean, if we want it to read smoothly, because that's the only thing. When you have something that has this many words and you're expecting people to vote on it, you know, I mean, you want it,
If they get confused,
Right,
they're not
you-
gonna wanna vote for it.
right, if they're gonna see the word $4.5 million, I think it's gonna cost them money. And I understand why Tom is saying the word savings account, because Joe Blow,
It should say-
Average Joe Blow knows what a savings
Capital
account
reserve
is.
fund. That's what you should say.
I mean, we can ask about simplification of the proposition and see what,
Okay.
she can say.
But we don't mean taking out these terms.
You're saying putting-
That's what you want, it's out. That's not crazy.
financing,
The construction of additions to it. right?
Mary Beth, are you keeping time, so you're being on the clock?
Hi, Connie, it's Adam. Can I put you on speakerphone for the meeting?
and the finance,
Okay.
And the acquisition of land.
and the applicant.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. We have a couple questions about the wording of the proposition.
Sure.
The first question is, in the first line, it says to establish a capital reserve fund. Is there any way to describe that more in the proposition, like a savings account, or no?
No, that can certainly all be described in whatever voter literature you send out, but I don't think you want to change the word. What you're establishing is a capital reserve fund under the education law. So if you wanted to put, capital reserve fund friend, savings account in a parentheses kind of thing, that would be okay, but I think we do need to call it capital reserve fund somewhere in the resolution.
So that wording can go in the resolution, or that would just go in our literature?
No, well, I think you could put it in literature, but if you wanted after the word capital reserve fund to add a parenthetical that said a savings account or a savings fund,
Yeah.
I think that would be okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's exactly what they want. So, you want savings account even, Connie, is okay? I'm not sure. if
Did
it's-
you hear that?
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question.
So
Capital reserve fund in parentheses savings account? I don't think we can hear from that.
Capital reserve fund, parentheses, savings fund or savings account, is either one fine?
Yeah, you could do that, that would be fine.
Okay. Down farther, where it says for the purpose of financing, and it starts with the acquisition of land, etc. We were going to take out construction of new schools, and we wondered if we could move the acquisition of land further down, because that's not really the primary intended use of the funds at this point in time. Is that fine?
Yes, there's no magic to the order, so you're more than welcome to move the acquisition of land wherever you'd like in that list of things you can do with the money in the fund.
Okay. There's a question about what is apparatus?
Apparatus?
Yeah.
It's right out of the statute, the statute uses the word apparatus, so it could be like gym equipment, it could be anything that doesn't fit into the furniture and machinery, but is movable and is not attached to the land, could fit in apparatus.
Okay, so that's directly out of the statute as an option. Okay.
Correct.
And then I think what maybe our final question is, the words fund balance are always a hot topic. Is there any other usage or terminology for that word? I mean, could it be, surplus funds, or I'm not sure if there's any other options.
Yeah, you could just say available funds,
Okay.
and that would be fine.
Such portion of the available funds as may be determined. Read that to him.
Such portion of the available funds as may be determined from time to time by the Board of Education?
You can take out the
Correct, right.
Okay.
And one more thing,
And then if you have available funds, fund balance in some state within the 10 years, you can move it over as long as it's still within the cap.
Okay.
Okay.
How about construction and reconstruction of athletic fields and improvement? Does site work cover that?
Did you hear that, Connie?
No, I'm sorry.
The construction and reconstructions of athletic fields and improvements, is that covered under site work, or does it have to be listed by itself?
It's just that, it can be covered under site work.
Okay, then we're probably gonna strike that from the proposition.
Another option.
That's fine, that's all considered site work.
Okay. Do we have to read the whole proposition back to you, or are we comfortable with moving forward by what the board has determined right now?
I would say we'll find a spot for
You
that.
know, I think I'm comfortable, I don't know if there's any other specific questions, but if those are the only things you're changing, that's all fine.
Okay. Yep, that's it, I think.
All right, we just gotta find a spot for acquisition of land.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Connie.
Thank you, Connie.
Thank you
I
very much.
apologize for not being there, I'm still on Long Island, believe it or not.
Okay.
God bless.
Good luck with the drive, like I said.
Thank you.
Bye.
Why don't we put a comma after machinery, get rid of the or, and then apparatus, or, oh, we get rid of apparatus too, or lamp. Or, we're not getting that, just put it at the end of that list.
Well, equipment, machine, and apparatus are required for the purposes for which such.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't
So
work.
that doesn't work.
Input,
I think we can put it before those, though. Acquisition, see where it says
Yes,
acquisition
site work,
of original
land.
furnishings? We could say site work and acquisition of land,
Original,
comma, original
right.
furnishings, equipment, machining.
That's fine.
Of land right before original furnishings.
That sounds good, John.
see, we took out some wording because the lawyer must have been getting paid for it.
Let me read it
She
one
won't
time.
charge us for this meeting, I'm sure.
Okay.
Can I read it one time, make sure everybody's got the same idea? Shall the Board of Education be authorized to establish a capital reserve fund, in parentheses, savings account, in an amount not to exceed $4.5 million with a probable term of 10 years for the purpose of financing the construction of additions to and reconstruction of various school district buildings and improvements, site work, and acquisition of land, comma, original furnishings, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required for the purpose for which such buildings will be used, with such capital reserve fund being funded with such portion of the available funds as may be determined from time to time by the Board of Education.
So, I'm gonna make a motion that that's be the amended resolution.
Second.
Wait a minute, don't we have to do, there's a motion on the floor, and it was seconded. Do we have to,
I just made a motion.
Now it's going to be as amended.
as
I
amended?
just made, whatever he said, we're just gonna put it as an amendment, and this amount seconded it. It'll be better into the record.
Yeah, I think it's very confusing.
Well, yeah, I used to have a couple of
What period
attorneys.
is that, Rob? Yeah.
They never period.
John just read.
Think about our budget proposition, that's confusing. If you actually read that thing, they're always confusing.
No, I just thought we were trying to be clearer.
No, what I was confused on was the motion on the floor.
Yeah,
Make
we
sure we're
amended
right.
that, we put this amendment in now, on a discussion that led to an amendment. The amendment has been seconded.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on the amended resolution as just read by Mr. Carmella?
Yes,
Yes, Mrs. Hyde.
The 10 years, I know you said that's the maximum, you never had any figures with going with 5 years instead of 10?
The amount of money would be the same. So it's just a matter of, is it gonna take us, how long is it gonna take us to get to that 4.5 million? So if it gets us there in 5, we can start a capital project. This allows us to take 10 if we need to. If we get some kind of, budget cycle like we're having this year and we can't get to the 4.5 for a while, this allows us to take up to 10 years.
The
Right,
goal
but if
would
we
be
get-
five.
It doesn't change the
Something
money
like-
amount.
But if I hit the number
This
for the
allows
school
five
district for
dollars.
$500,000, you could do it next year.
What's that?
If I hit the number and give you the $4 million to the school district, you could do it next year.
We can do it next year.
Or if we get $2 million in there in 3 years, some things have to be taken care of immediately, you can use a portion to do a smaller project.
Yeah, 3 million would get us about
So-
19.
So we're not restricted on withdrawing it either.
You're not, every withdrawal requires voter approval because they'd be voting on the project as a whole.
So they're voting on setting up the account, and they're also voting on.
It's very restrictive.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'd have to vote to do the project, and in that project proposition, it would
That's
say.
important for them to know, though, when we're talking to them.
Yeah,
That's
it would
another
say it would
major
be
thing.
funded by, bonds, bands, capital reserve, and,
David's challenge.
budget appropriations.
And this is just such a logical thing to do. You know, I mean, this is one step for moving the whole district forward.
Planning for the
I mean,
future,
it's-
long-term
Right,
planning, planning for the
long-term
future.
planning, I mean, yeah,
Absolutely.
just talking.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Oh,
All right, is there any other discussion on the resolution as amended? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Discussion of future meetings. April 4th, that's a Tuesday, we'll be here at 6:30 PM. April 12th, we'll be here at 6 PM. That's the night we're gonna probably adopt the budget. And April 25th, 2017 is a Tuesday, we'll be at school 12. Is there anything else anyone would like to discuss prior to adjournment?
Yeah,
That's fair.
as long as we're here. Last meeting I forgot to talk about, March 18th, I attended the Quest Star Workshop, which is very good. It was good. It was very informative. I was glad I went. There was a speaker there whose name escapes me.
The Saturday one?
Saturday.
Oh, Mike Ford.
It was excellent.
He's the one, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mary, but he's the one that, remember I went to a retreat last summer, a 2-day retreat, and, sent something in the Friday report. He was the one that did that retreat. Very, very good.
He was awesome. And I can forward, his presentation to Mary Beth if anybody's interested.
I'd like to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
It was excellent. But one of the, one of the takeaways for me, and I happened to notice when I was walking the building side, was, he talked a little bit about all the things we do for disaster planning and how most of it's really ineffective and we just do it because we're trying to make people feel safer, but it doesn't.
That's not the case here. John has worked very hard to do realistic emergency planning and blackball it.
And, okay, well, one of what he said was one of the most effective things we could do was put the room numbers in the windows. And in this building, the room numbers, for the most part, when I was looking in, I was spotting them. They are in the windows.
Yeah, I remember when we did the project.
And I didn't know how our other buildings looked. He also suggested that there was a piece of red and a piece of green construction paper someplace by that number, so that if there was an emergency, a teacher could quickly put up the green or the red to let people on the outside know they either needed help or didn't need help. So if they were okay, it would be green. If they weren't okay, it would be red. But it was just like a really simple kind of thing that he thought.
The emergency responders have to be included on those.
Right,
People are
absolutely.
lame building it.
But yeah, I haven't, because.
The numbers on the windows, though, we can check on that. I think we've done that in the past few years.
I think it
Yeah.
was something Homeland Security actually wanted us to do.
Yeah, I think we've done that, but we can check on it.
Yeah, it was like a nominal amount of money. we
Especially
just
when we have
spent
new
for-
windows going in our schools,
Yeah,
so.
But you took forward the thing that Mary Beth said, though.
Yeah.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn.
He does good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.